I'm Erin Lawler Patterson, the Goodness Chick. I'm an international speaker, podcaster, counselor, author, and proud part of the Mental Health News Radio Network. Join me on the journey of empowering you to live life with an overflowing cup rather than an empty one. We look at mental health, self-care, addiction, relationship, and wellness, where we use our challenges to fuel us rather than consume us. So with today's episode, really excited. Our paths have kind of crossed again. I have Dr. Rachel Gregg with me here today. Dr. Gregg, I want to say welcome to the Goodness Chick podcast.
Well, thank you, dear. I'm happy to be here.
And what do you say? I'm going to say 2 years ago. We first kind of, would you say 2-ish years ago?
At least.
Like 2.8. How about that? Boom.
Sounds great. Yeah.
So Rachel and I connected where we were both participating with, it was Angie Lee, had done kind of a course. She's like empowerment, kind of, women power kind of thing. And it's been really, really neat since the 2.8 years to watch your growth, where the road of life has left you. And I know you kind of, you began your path where you were a pharmacist, and you walked away from that to pursue your passion. Would you mind filling in the blanks a little bit with that?
I'd be happy to. So yeah, it was 6 years ago in January. Just things were not jiving with me and how things were going in that field. So 6 years ago, I basically walked away from a six-figure income because of just morally, it wasn't jiving. So I walked away. I knew I had a higher purpose to actually heal people and do it in a more natural, holistic way. So now I focus on gut health, fitness, nutrition, supplementation, and mindfulness. So a whole spectrum.
Very neat combination of things that kind of like, that come together. One of the things that really impressed me with you, and you had said, you had a very stable six-figure job.
Mm-hmm.
And you decided to just walk away from it. And one of the things that you focus on a lot with what you do is the aspect of fear, which
Mm-hmm.
I just have tremendous respect for, where it's, you can allow fear to get in your head and kind of consume you, or you could kind of step up to it eye to eye and allow it to be a catalyst. And in what ways was fear, I don't want to use the word factor, but involved, and how did you approach it when you made the decision to say, I'm leaving, I'm out?
Yeah, I think at that point, yes, looking back, I kind of think, wow, that was a little crazy. But at the time, and even now, I don't regret it. I just saw what was on the other side. If I didn't do it, I would be so disappointed in myself. And I knew on the other side of my fear were all the people that needed me, that truly needed my wisdom in health and wellness, needed to feel like how I could empower them to step through their own fear by stepping through mine.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one way I just overlooked all of the fear of the income and the stability, and just said, you know what? It's in me for a reason. It's in my gut. It's in my being. I'm supposed to do this. And just like relocating and moving, 5-6 months ago is that same thing. I was scared. It wasn't that it's not about being fearless. It's about having the fear
Mm-hmm.
and doing it anyway. So if it's in you, it's for you, and you got to listen to the call, or it will drive you. Eventually it's gonna get to you in a way that's not so positive. So use it for the positive first.
So it's kind of like that fork in the road that
Yeah.
all of us at different seasons of our life, different decisions, whether it's our occupation, whether it's relationships, whether it's, moving across
Mhm.
town or across the country, it's like, which way do I go? And it is very easy to be consumed by fear. What if I don't do this? What if I don't do that? What if, oh my gosh, a six-figure job and the stability. And this is what I want to interject, because there's people that are meant to stay in their career for 30 years. Like, that's your passion. That is what you do. You wake up in the morning and you dig it. And then for others, and we're kind of both of us part of that camp,
Mm-hmm.
where it's easy to step back and say, I think about myself, or my job was super stable. I was kind of the top of my game. It was like I was making very good money,
Mm-hmm.
and I left it. but I loved what you had said, like in 5-10 years, if you decided to stay, you decided just to kind of ride it out, how disappointed you would be in yourself. And I think about life, are we going to hold on to what ifs, or, what is
Yeah.
it kind of two different, the future, and there's there's one life, there's no rewind, there's no, it's a big decision. And fear, would you say right now fears in a lot of people's heads? I do think about all the people who've lost jobs, right?
Yeah.
So there's so many different factors, or just what's next. What kind of tips, I know I'm going kind of a little bit veering here, would you give to people right now that have all these different thoughts in their head, that are worried or nervous, or what if?
Yeah, you're never going to be ready for any big change. That's something that I truly know. And yes, there's so much fear. There's fear of the virus itself, right? Getting sick. But the bigger issue, I think, and some people probably disagree, but it's the economical thing that's happening to people right now, that's leading to mental wellness issues, that people are losing their life savings, they're losing their business, they're having to lay off their employees. That brings a level of anxiety, a level of depression. And for me personally, I was really blessed because about a year and a half-ish ago, I turned all of my business over onto online.
Mm-hmm.
So that for me has been a huge, huge thing. So being able to pivot in these times that we're in now, that's going to make or break you. Do you see the opportunity, or do you get lost in the darkness of the fear?
Right.
And so it's just realizing things are never going to be the way they were, and you got to wrestle with that however you have to, and just realize that this is actually a beautiful opportunity to take that chance, pivot into, like I said, pivot into a new direction in your life, your business, your career, and realize that no matter what you do for for your job, you can service people somehow, some way, showing up. Like for me, it's showing up online. I mean, Erin, the same thing for you, like showing up with your podcast, showing up, wherever you need to writing a book or whatever it is, like you're showing up for people. And you're the leader. You're showing that you can lead in time. Yeah. Like your phone, like, or, in times like this. Exactly. And so that's the way we're headed. And instead of fearing it or fighting it, you just have to embrace it as it is and just say, okay, this is where it's going. And it's a beautiful season if you take it for the positives that are there. Not that there's not negatives, but
it is mindset, because with every, and this is different because I know it's a global thing, but anything in life, there are positives and there are negatives. And one of the things that I've really been fortunate, and I feel kind of blessed to have been a part of, I've been doing a number of like webinars and PSAs for different schools and for teachers, and talking about how, like, it is so important right now, our mindset, and how there's not a normal. And for us to think right now that, like, I want to get things back to normal. Well, it's pitching that out the window, because I think when we say the normal, we have unrealistic expectations we put on ourselves, and it leads us to unhealthy places. I think physically, emotionally, spiritually, and all that jazz, where it's like, okay, what am I going to do with what I have now? And one of the things with you that I was like digging with, your stuff on Facebook and your podcast, was like, how it's like a bike wheel, the spokes, and how all these things are connected to us. And one of the things I had thrown out to the young people, that a number of them I've been speaking to, is like looking at the wellness factor. Like, it's not just, hey, you're at home for the next, whatever it is in total, but what are you doing when you're home? So like asking you, I know you talk a lot about like gut health, and you talk about, mental wellness. What are a few things that you would recommend to people to say, that are realistic, that are strategies for maybe like the next 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks that they can implement, where it's not looking at, oh my gosh, I'm trapped at home, but using it without sounding like as a gift to let's being good to ourselves, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what I personally do that's working. I started doing little meditations, and I wasn't a meditator on a regular basis, but I have an app that I use, and I do at least one a night. It depends. If I fall asleep during the first one, I only do one, but I use it to help me get to sleep because we all have a lot going on in our brains right now. And then in the morning, I get outside, I walk my dogs, I listen to a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I fill myself with positivity. I don't turn the TV on and sit down and plunk myself in front of all of the stuff that's being fed to us right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, the news. So I let that go, and I move my body. I physically lift weights. I ride my bike. I go for a run. And I also nourish my body with healthy food options, because that's something, these are all things I have power over. I can control what I consume in every different way, nutritionally, what I take in my ears and my eyes, and then moving my body so I have strength, so I'm feeling empowered in that sense. And then I use supplements and all the things to really, prime my immune system, keep me strong, keep my gut in a good place, because that's where our immune system is. So for people out there that are really concerned about health right now, your immune system is in your gut. And that is where you can feed your gut healthy food, drink plenty of water. You may have to make changes, but if you're that concerned about how you would deal with this virus if you got it, then that's something that you have the control over. So I love to empower people. I love to educate people and make them realize there's so much in this world we can't have any power over, and that can bring on a lot of anxiety. But if you really take ownership of you, that takes a lot of that anxiety away. The antidote to anxiety is action, positive action.
Yeah.
So
it is, because it's so easy. I think it's important to be informed what's going on in the world, and it's another thing to be, which is so easy to happen, saturated, because you get like what we put in our bodies, what I listen to, what I hear, what I watch, and I believe that within all my heart, that if you're just inundated with like just negative and like these statistics and this and that, and it's not being unaware or ignorant to things, but just, our body, I do believe it's like a temple. And it's just like, what we listen to with podcasts or the radio or music is so important, where I do believe with all my heart, iron sharpens iron. So if you're putting diluted kind of funky train, blah fest in your body, right? Not just what you're eating, but music and what you're reading. Like right now is such a critical time for people. I think of all the people who are on the front lines that are like, they're just stretched and they're tired, and how do I have time for this? And I think it's taking little kernels of what you can do for you to be fueled, and those the many who are home, right? And going for a walk with your dog, it's going in the backyard and getting some sun. It's like, instead of eating a box of Oreos, I'm gonna jam with some carrots and some whatever it is. But it's because it's so easy to say, well, everybody else is doing this and we're all in this and things are crappy. And if we have a mindset of just crappiness, well, things are going to be crappy and you're going to feel crappy, and it's decrapping. I know that's super not a, real.
I'm all about talking about poop, so we can
decrapping, right? But it's like our
so good.
the gut, the mind, the everything is interconnected, and easy to lose sight of that a little bit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it does. It all starts with the mind. Like I mentioned, the mindset. And not that you shouldn't be informed, because I get little doses of it. So I know what every side is saying, and it's just taking it with a, grain of salt in some situations. And if there's something you're more interested in because it's something you never heard before, or you're like, is this real? Do your research. And that's why I tell people every time I post something, hey, I'm open. Show me what you got. But just be very aware of what you're consuming. at all times. And the people, it's even, I know it's a little harder now during quarantine, but even the people that you're listening to, whether it's family, friends, if you have that person that if you talk to them, you feel anxious after you talk to them on the phone, you got to limit the time. So it's all these little things that I always preach, even during regular times. So it's just being aware.
But even like, I know physically we can't obviously see people. It's like, whether somebody is 4 miles up the road or 400 miles, but it's getting creative. And to me, we have technology that can work for us. So it's scheduling once a week that call with a friend that, like, even if it's 10 minutes, that you see each other's faces, just like we are right now, a Zoom call, that it's that encouragement. Because I am pretty confident if we try it, like, we're getting all this negative and we have negative around us, like, most of the day, whether it's people or whatever the heck the messages we're receiving, it just sucks your energy. So, like, putting it in your calendar, putting on your phone, putting on a Post-it note of scheduling time to be and exposing ourselves to positive people. And whether that's on the phone, that's a text message, or it's a Zoom call, Skype, whatever the heck it is, FaceTime, do it and make it a part of you. Yeah. I think sometimes we put ourselves on the back burner where it's like everything else is going on and I don't have time. Well, that's lame, dude. It's like, you got one you.
Fill your cup.
Fill your cup.
Yeah, you can't fill anybody else's cup. And I hear that all the time. I can't invest in myself because I have kids and I'm like, but how do you give your loved ones and everyone that you are around your very best if you aren't taking care of yourself? So it's not selfish.
Yeah, the cup has cracks in it and water's leaking out, and then you're like, I want to pour from it. Well, it's empty. Yeah. And so what I do, it's that connecting, I'm worth it. And in order for me, I have to love myself enough to do this and make it a mandatory part of my lifestyle that makes me an even more gnarly, parent, worker, therapist, doctor, whatever the heck it is, right? Friend. It makes us better all around. And we just need to remind ourselves of that, because filling our cup is essential at facing that fear in a healthy way, what we put in our bodies and all that jazz.
Yeah. Yeah. And you brought it up earlier, and I think I was listening to a podcast or some sort of YouTube or something, and it talked about really doing something you love. Like if you're in a job right now and it does pay you well, but you love it and like you said, you're passionate, you're living your calling, then yes, do that. But if you're in a situation and you can make a change, do it. Obviously be responsible, but at the same time, don't dim your light. Yeah. Because eventually you'll just be so miserable that you did that. So that's, I understand people are in situations where I have to pay the bills, I have kids, I get that, but then find a little time to dabble with something that really ignites you.
And I think adds joy and adds a fire. Like I actually, I put this in my, this is like in the preface of my, my book that's coming out in the summer, about how, like, literally, I remember the last day at the school I worked at, and I love I love my job, but it was like probably a year before that I started feeling this, like, it's time, like that peace, that unsettlement, like it was just this combination of things that I just knew. And it seemed insane. And even driving away from the building, like physically driving away, I like cried. But it was like that transition where I just knew it was time to jump. And now, 2 years later, I'm so grateful I took that leap. Like there's still days that it's piecing things together and I don't know, it's like rediscovering things, which is kind of cool. Like it's, I'm doing things I never thought I would be doing before in terms of podcasting and writing and speaking and creating my own Shazamage, just like you're doing. And it's scary, but it's awesome. And one of the things I'd read that you had posted on Facebook about, being uncomfortable, and I loved it. And in terms of us, like if we're always comfortable, we're doing something wrong.
Yeah. And that's one of my favorite things to say. It's nothing great happens in your comfort zone. And I always have to keep reminding myself that, because every level you need to scale up, right? You get to that next level and you're like, I got here. Wow. Oh, okay. Now I got to level up again. Like, so you're never done up leveling, and it gets, I mean, you're like, I worked this hard to get to this point. Oh my God, to get to that next point, I have to work, oh my gosh, what?
Yeah.
But you just have to keep up, 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 up.
But
And
it's a growth thing.
yes,
We become, I think, better human beings when we allow ourselves to get to that point to know that it just keep going,
yeah.
right? It's kind of like, Dory, yeah, in Finding Nemo, like just keep swimming in a
Mhm.
positive way, just keep going and keep that next, you know, coral reef, that next after that, like it's a journey that never has an ending until we take our last breath, instead of just being stationary. And even if you're at the same job for 40 years and it's your jam, there's growth. There's that continuing to be forms of discomfort that just makes us better.
Yeah.
And it's been so rad to see that with you.
Well, thank you.
Um,
Same with you.
but it's cool, isn't it? I'm like, what's up? Girl power.
Yeah, well, and I think when we were in our mastermind, you were still in the schools.
Yeah.
But you were talking about, you were in that transition. I think you were either had already decided, or you were very close to giving, that school like, hey, I'm going. So I do remember that you were right at that cusp. And but especially even in times like right now, you can go back to the job that you were at before all this happened, the exact same position, the same company, but it's not, it's not going to look the same.
Yeah.
Some way, shape, or form, it's going to be a different process.
Mhm.
So no matter, like you said, if you're in the same position, it's always evolving, and it's whether you're willing to evolve with it or try and like tug the rope so hard and all you do is just work really hard to go nowhere.
Which is easy to happen. It's that the whole hamster in a wheel thing. Like you look like you're moving, but you're not going anywhere. So
Exactly.
it's kind of coming to that fork in the road and saying, what am I prepared to just
Mm-hmm.
that leveling up. And it's like, it's a journey and it's a beautiful thing. And for those of you guys who, listen to podcasts, which is what you're doing right now, so good job, is, I want to plug your podcast, A Better Way to Heal, which is awesome. And it's we talk about positives, things that we can glean and just become better people, informed. I absolutely 100%, encourage you to check it out. I'm also going to be putting links to your Facebook page, your website, all that jazz. And I want to say, Rachel, thank you.
Oh, thank you. This is awesome. It's always,
things.
yeah, it's empowering to be with empowering women that are doing amazing things. It's so cool.
And it was cool because I remember like trying to find quiet space in my house when we lived at the shore in New Jersey, where it was like, and watch on a screen, how many of us there were, 15, 20 of us, and just being fueled and encouraged and looking forward to, just time with other women who wanted to essentially change the world and encourage other people. And that really comes back to the base of us. Who do we surround ourselves with? And it doesn't have to be physically, right? This is where technology comes in, because we've never physically met each other, but it's like 2.8 years later, we're still that encouragement factor that is massive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that means so much. And I've had that, and now what I do with my business, I'm on the Zooms all the time with other women, and it's just so inspiring, so encouraging. Sometimes you're the one getting the encouragement, and sometimes you're giving the encouragement. So it's just, pay it forward type of thing. So it's just so cool.
Keep rocking, my friend.
You, girl, I'm so proud of you for all that you've done.
Same thing at you. And I'm going to say to you guys who are tuning in and listening today, no matter where you are awesome. You are valued. And remember to it's learning how to stare fear in the face and learning how, when we're ready for it, to go through life not being comfortable. Wishing you a tremendous amount of peace, love, and goodness, my friends.
Right back at you.
If you enjoyed today's episode, there's a lot more encouragement and life-kicking strategies on goodnesschick.com. Have a great day, my friends.